Let's go. Let's go. Leland, live on your radio. Live on your radio. Birmingham's Real Talk. Talk 99.5. Talk 99.5.
Live is on your radio. Leland live on the radio. Leland live on the radio. Come on. Leland live is on your radio. Leland live on the radio. Leland live on the radio. Come on. Leland live is on your radio.
All right, it's 4:05, Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Work Trucks bring you the show tonight. They're downtown Birmingham. Y'all go and check them out. If you need a business, commercially based truck, no frills, get it done, hardworking, checked out, low miles. It's everything you want in a box truck, in a flatbed, in a pickup, in a van of all shapes and sizes, cargo and passenger vans. It's Work Trucks. Y'all go and see Bubba and the team, and if they don't have a configuration that you need to let them track it down, that's what they're good at. I mean, you've got a business to run or a business to start. Wasting time on figuring out your fleet needs is a waste of time. You need to focus on your thing, your trade, your thing you do that brings in the money. Let them get your trucks lined up. When you wear that one out, take it back to them. They'll take it on trade and get you another one. And the fact that we're buying pre-owned saves you money. It always does. It's a depreciable asset. Work Trucks, great operation down there. Downtown, 3rd Avenue South, Work Trucks. LLC.com. Let's see where to start. I got a full bank of calls. Jason was still talking. This is a follow-up to Dan's call. Dan's a long-term caller to the show. Dan used to be completely liberal and calling to my butt about liberal stuff. You remember that way back in the day?
He's done such a far swing.
He's done a 180. He's done a 180, and now he's off in that circuit. But the thing is, he is a thought. Let me just tell y'all, I think he's wrong on some stuff. He's connecting some dots that don't make any sense to me. But Dan is a sincere guy. He's a passionate dude. He loves his country. He's worried about things. And aren't we all? I mean, we all come at things a different way. So I'm not going to pile on Dan personally. I like him. And I like a lot of people I disagree with. I come from that generation. But this piling on the Jews thing and finding a conspiracy around every corner, to me, is just in general, when I see so much of this building, this anti-Semitism, it's a lazy approach to the reality of what we're dealing with in this world. The state of Israel is not a threat to my country right now. Fact, it's not a threat. Our country has not been under attack. We're not having neighborhoods taken over by Jewish people that are demanding people acquiesce to their dress codes, to their dietary habits. The Jewish people have their traditions and cultures from which all of Christianity came. Period. And so we have that commonality. There is a Judeo-Christian ethic, the 10 Commandments, upon which our entire legal code extends from that. The basis of all of that was from Moses. And then Moses was the lawgiver, and it came through a European tradition, which got morphed into our Constitution. We've always been side by side and in existence with each other since the day Jesus died, which we're about to commemorate. You can have an eschatological conference if you want to, and you can go theological. But as far as American history and our country that we're trying to preserve, for example, a lot of folks don't even know this history. Y'all ever heard of a guy named Haim Solomon? Anybody? Class? Do y'all know?
I am unfamiliar with that name.
We would not have had a Revolutionary War without him. He funded a lot of it at the bequest of George Washington and the other founders. You know what he was? You know what ethnicity he was? What religion he worshipped?
I'm going to guess with the last name Solomon.
He was Jewish.
He may have been Jewish.
Solomon had a little money, and he was about the cause of freedom.
A wealthy person named Solomon?
Yeah,
I haven't heard that before.
Come on, man. And then we have, and then you talk about ethnicity, and I was talking about that the other day in terms of Greek philosophy, and they believed if you got too multicultural where you did not share things in common, that a country would dissolve, and that's what happened to the Romans. That's what Dan was referring to, and I found this old, I think, Socrates quote about it. In those days, the Romans had gone out and acquired so many territories. A lot of those territories were completely different than theirs in far-flung lands, and those people wanted to go to Rome and be part of the system. And when they came to Rome, their values clashed. Their gods were different. Their belief systems was different. And you could even say, that's why the disciples, when they went to Rome and the Romans killed them, last year I got to see the prison where Peter and Paul were held and then eventually murdered. It was very moving to see this little tiny stone hole in the ground. I missed the first 2 times I went there. The Roman culture was very different than the rest of what became Christendom, but eventually Rome became the seat of the Catholic Church. So there's Christianity, and then there are these nations that have come and gone since Jesus' time. And back to my point of our founding, which is unique in and of itself, it wasn't just a bunch of Christian white boys. This Solomon guy and a lot of people that didn't fight, but they gave money to the cause. People did what they could to fight off this king. And our founders wanted all of us to be able to worship side by side, and they respected this guy and each other in those days, and that's how we were founded, period. Jews and Christians side by side. There were not any Muslims. Their belief system is so out of phase with Jews and Christians disagree on a lot, but we come from the same general heritage and we can understand each other in those ways. What Islam brings is completely different, and it's completely dangerous and has been for 1,400 years. Thomas Jefferson was the only member of the original founders and of the first 3 presidents that even understood it. He went and got a copy of the Quran. You couldn't just get on Amazon back then and order one. So he had to go to great lengths to come up with one. There weren't Qurans all over the place. It was the colonies. And he read it, and it freaked him out. And you know what he did? We founded a navy because we were under attack from this belief system that was attacking our merchant. They were doing what they're doing right now in the Strait of Hormuz. They were stopping international commerce with piracy. So we had to create a navy to go fight that. You know what the challenge was about creating a navy? The founders didn't want us to have a big threatening central army or a central military power. We were a collection of states that were supposed to be able to protect themselves. That's why you have a Second Amendment right.
Remember, that's why the Marine Corps hymn goes to the shores of Tripoli.
To the shores of Tripoli, Libya. That's where the Barbary pirates were. We've got a deep history with this same issue that was this similar dynamics back then. You had violence from a Muslim-oriented belief system that was attacking and fighting with Western civilization. That goes all the way to the Muslims raiding Europe and going into Spain and building the Cordoba Mosque and the Crusades and all that. This is not a new development in the world. And it's never been the state of Israel or Jewish people that have been on the other side of that equation from Christians, ever. This stuff is new, and it's paranoid, and it's wrong on its history. By the way, speaking of ethnicity, one of the first people killed, y'all know who Crispus Attucks is, right? They don't teach this stuff in schools anymore. This guy was one of the first people killed that led to the outrage that led to our revolution. He was black. Well, mostly. He was of mixed race, but he was considered black in those days, and he was one of the first victims when we started shooting. And for people that want to divide us in a different way with race paranoia and all this nonsense that this country was founded on slavery, it was not founded on slavery. It was a worldwide institution that was here when we started, and we got rid of it eventually. I even saw a map the other day. I didn't mean to give you a huge history class because I know we got callers holding. I saw a map the other day. It was fascinating. It was a county-by-county breakdown of how people were voting over the issue of slavery. And even here in Alabama, in the middle of slave country, a huge number of counties, including Jefferson, were not for secession. They did not want to fight a war over this issue or states' rights or anything else. The South was even divided. The people that got rich off slavery were a few rich landholders in the American South. And where are they now? All those plantations you can't even keep them up anymore. Those family legacies might still be with us, but what made us rich was industrialization and invention that happened at the turn of the century after the Civil War. That's what made us rich. We weren't rich or wealthy or a superpower in the least until we built railroads and invented the steam locomotive and electricity and flight and all those things that came along through one thing, and that was our freedom. Our freedom that was given to us by these same people that took the Jew guys' money to fight the war. We've always been in bed with this thing together. And to not know that history as far as American history, you can go back through thousands of years of religious debate and all that stuff if you want. And you're always, hell, I mean, you're going to find disagreements among Christianity to this day. I grew up with Baptists that didn't like going to lunch with Methodists because they got out of church too early.
It even speaks about it in the Bible. Remember when they talk about eating meat that's offered to pagan altars? Should a Christian eat that meat? And
All of
divided it.
The first apostles had to constantly straighten the church out over their belief systems. Some of it was pagan. They were taking this faith into pagan territories, trying to reconcile with Jewish tradition. It's amazing that it even happened if you look at it. And so here we are today, all these years later, and it's honestly the same story over and over again. The problem I have with some of these conspiracy theories is, and this is where I think it gets to, it comes across as thoughtful, but it's really intellectually lazy to just need a villain and find all your problems and paint conspiracy theories about a central villain that's the cause of everything. And it's really not any central villain. If there's a villain in our society right now, it's us for allowing some of these things to happen. I've heard, sometimes I hear Beck, clips from Beck's show, and I've heard him say this stuff for years, and he used to sound kooky, but the thing that's emerging intellectually among scholars now that are watching these things that are constantly the enemies of freedom. Okay, freedom is what's at stake here from any threat. And those are people that want central control. Can I give a class real quick? This is philosophical. The people that want central control over us and they're acting on it in that way. It's Islam, which always believes that its faith system will dominate. There'll be a bloodbath in the world and they're going to bring back their imam, and they got to do it through violence. Our faith does not teach that. Our Christ is coming back not through violence. We do have revelation, which calls that there would be upheaval, but it's not incumbent upon us to spread the religion through violence. The Jews don't even want you to become a member. I mean, they're not. They don't want you to let you in the club. Islam says it'll just kill you if you don't bow down, and that's oversimplification. But it's 1,400 years and more of history in the world. And so what's ever present right now are communist Marxists, which are really come from a secular tradition that want to control central powers and tell people how to live. And they keep doing it and they keep failing. And by the way, I would dare tell you, the city of New York has had Jewish mayors, Western civilization mayors, white mayors, black mayors. The worst mayor they've ever had is a Muslim communist. That doesn't even jive. I don't know, how do those two jihad? They don't. They've got a common enemy, though. The only reason they're an axis together is a common enemy in the world, and that is any free people that they want to dominate. And here's my prediction. Commies will be good at taking over with some of their arguments in dumb cities like New York that vote this way, and they're quickly regretting their decisions with this guy. And then when he fails, the Muslims will just kill him and take over everything else. It's true. It's a pattern. It's happening very, very quickly. It's the red-green axis is what some people call it. The red-green alliance, green being the color that typically represents Islam. It is you don't have to trust me. Go find the Quran and just sit down and read it. I did. Just like Jefferson, I went, what? And then I would ask over all these years, 30 years of me asking questions about this. It's a curiosity I have. I need to know how other people think and why they would justify their position. So in the 80s, when it was the Cold War, I immersed myself in trying to understand the commies. I read Marx. I took Russian history, culture, language, had a trip planned to Moscow to go behind the Red Wall. I want to know what the hell are these people are about? Why are these people our enemy? Why are they wrong? Reagan did the same thing. He studied it, and it formed his worldview. And he won. He beat the commies by outspending them. He understood the weakness in their system, right? Then Islam gets on the same page with me intellectually after they took our hostages in 1979. I'm 13 years old, and I can't understand how people would believe this way. I naively thought my country is the greatest in the world. Why would anybody hate us that bad? So I started over time starting to try to understand it. And then when you read the words, you go, oh yeah, it does say that. You don't have to believe it, but here's what you need to understand. They believe it. Not all of them. I've told this story over and over again about a buddy of mine. I say a buddy of mine, he's a guy I met while traveling, got to know him every day. We were sitting in a McDonald's. I'll never forget this scene. He, I had a lot of McDonald's conversations back then because it's the only place I could afford to eat. I was in Paris, 23 years old, trying to explore the world. This guy's across from me, but at the other table, right? So we're at a diagonally. He's got his little paper with his sandwich on it. I'm eating my fries. And I asked him, I said, all right, so sincerely, I want to ask you. I said, you seem like a real cool guy and a peaceful guy. He was Muslim. I said, does your holy book tell you should kill me because I'm an infidel? And he demurred. He looked at his sandwich and he looked around. He didn't want to lie to me about it. He goes, it does say that. I said, would you act on it? He goes, I choose not to. And so, yes, in the world of Islam, there are a lot of Muslims that know what it says, but they don't. They're like secular Jews and secular Christians that grow up in a tradition, but they don't adhere to the tenets of it fundamentally, and they're not going to go out and commit jihad. That's not their thing. They're just like us. They're trying to go to work. But among them, if they just like, and I'm not trying to besmirch Dan's call, but you get worked up, you read something, and you think you've been enlightened, and you got to go out, and all hell's going to break loose, and you got to go participate. That's the people that are radicalizing and driving cars into Jewish centers right now and attacking people with bombs. And that's not in my lifetime, I don't know, have we ever had a violent terrorist attack from Jewish people anywhere in the world against us? I know the conspiracy theorists will say they're behind everything. 9/11, ISIS, all of that. I have not lived that existence. I have lived through watching what Iran has done to my people on the battlefield and in all those terror incidents I've listed for the last 3 weeks. Khobar Towers, the Marine barracks, 600 soldiers on the Iraqi battlefield. The Iranians did that to us. They had tried to assassinate my president twice and failed. That wasn't even the ones we know about. These were interdicted. They are the sponsor because they're a combined, and that's the difference between us and them. Back to this. They believe that government and God are one thing together and must be together, and that's how it's ordained. We don't. We are free to believe what we want, and we don't want government to have that power because we get our power from God himself. Our own founding documents say that. Our power comes from birth with inalienable rights that we're born with. Government doesn't grant that to us. Islam believes their leaders are granted by God power over them to tell them how to behave, how to act, and what to act on, and they follow that. And fault them or not, when you understand why these things happen, and I'm not even saying I have the deepest understanding, I'm trying my best. You understand when they're motivated in such a way that death is salvation, killing an infidel or atoning for your sins by bloodshed is taught. It's commanded. And some will choose to act on it. Some just get up and go to work every day. Some will go, yep. That's why when there are these atrocities, do you hear anything from peaceful Islam after it happens? Be real. After 9/11, what did you hear from them? Not much. They were worried about Islamophobia, which is not even a thing. A phobia is an irrational fear. Watching patterns of history is pretty rational to be afraid, especially when your people have been violently attacked. There's nothing irrational about the fear of a foreign culture that comes with a predicate that is a holy book that commands violence. That's pretty rational to be fearful of that, even if we are misunderstanding sometimes. That stuff's real. That's where we are, and it's not new. I got to get to the break, but it's not new. Y'all understand that, right? This battle for souls and minds and control has gone on for hundreds of years in different phases. We're just in another one. Back in a minute. Man, I got to go fast. I talked too much in that last segment. Southern Skies Dermatology, y'all go see them. Get checked. I don't care what color you are. I mean, sincerely, I used to think this was an old white people thing, skin cancer, until it hit my family, somebody in their 20s. And then it hit my mom, and then I understood she was young back then, younger than me now when she got her first melanoma. Y'all, it's real. It's out there. It's 1 in 5 people that you'll come across have had some form of it. And we live in the South. We're people of the sun. We have good weather, and we're outside a lot. We can do damage that shows up years later. So at least screen and take somebody with you that you love and want to live a long time, and y'all make sure that you're good. That feels good to get a good checkup. Then you're on with your life. But if you've got something of concern, especially, go get checked. Don't wait because it moves quickly. Southern Skies Dermatology, this is all they do. Find it and remove it. They're the experts. SouthernSkiesDermatology.com. Let me get Natalie in here real quick. Natalie, what's up?
Hi. So what I was gonna kind of ask what you know about it, but so I was always taught the only state that I know of in the Bible that it specifically says take care of these people and makes it clear that we're supposed to defend and take care of the Jewish land. But I was wondering, I was reading not too long ago about the other caller said something about a third temple, and I don't know anything about that, but I know that we're supposed to, when, before the end of time, that the temple's going to be, the temple, Christian temple's going to be rebuilt, but there's supposedly, from what I read, I don't know how true it is, that it's where it needs to be built is on a Muslim burial ground.
All right, Natalie, I got to run. Let me put you on hold. We'll try to see if I can deal with that on the other side. Back in a minute. It's 4:35, Leland Live. You want to talk about Alabama Bass for a minute? Let me tell you, these guys have a product that is superior to their competitors. It's better priced, and they're just better people. They are. They're the nicest family. Been at it. Maybe that's why they've been successful for more than 40 years of doing bathroom projects. Now, Alabama Bass can do the full project. If you're sick of your bathroom and you want to redesign it and make it new again, they can absolutely do that for you. But the thing we talk about, one of the quickest fixes that could change your life, is getting rid of that old bathtub. If you want a easy entry shower system, they can help. They've got a product that anybody can step into, slip proof surfaces. Everything's thought through, the way the handles, even the way the handles are angled. Sit down features if you want them. They have little foldable seats or fixed seats if you need that. Even the magnetic and ergonomically designed shower fixtures, easier to handle in certain situations. Look, we're all growing old and you start to lose a step. You don't want to fall in there, especially if you live alone. You don't have to leave the house you love, too, where all your memories are. Just upgrade it. It's not even that expensive to get this changed out. They'll come and do it for you. Now, they can go tub for tub. If you'd like a tub bath, but you need a fresh tub, they'll do that for you, too. Walk-in tubs. That's a huge deal for some people that still like to get a good tub soak. It is Alabama Bass. Y'all reach out to them. They're down in Pelham. If you want to look at the quality of their work in person, they welcome you to come see what they can do. Otherwise, they'll come to you. AlabamaBass.com, AlabamaBass.com. Well, James Comey's been subpoenaed. I got to change subjects here for a little bit and get y'all updated on some stuff. The good news is this was down in Miami at the Southern District. This is not D.C. This is not New York, where all the federal corruption is and those corrupt federal judges. Apparently, it's part of the Justice Department looking into the guys from the Obama era and some of the abuse that they were doing. Now, I don't know specifically what they're after Comey for, but we know he violated some laws in allowing Hillary to get away with the destroyed classified documents when he gave her that pass, even though the Hillary people still blame him for even looking at her in the first place, which is absurd. But there was also the leaking in the first Trump administration, if you'll remember. Comey's such a snake in the grass and arrogant. And arrogance will generally do people in the end. And so what he did was he tried to set up Trump with this PP tape. Let me just kind of recall that history. He goes to Trump. Maybe at the time he thought this was legit, that the Russians had a compromising videotape of the president, which was absurd on its face. I remember the first time I heard of that, I went, that didn't happen. And so he goes to Trump, and he thinks he can shake him down J. Edgar Hoover style. J. Edgar Hoover used to get compromising material on public officials, and then he owned them. We're going to keep this in this little file over here, and the public doesn't have to know that. Then he would own people. He was doing it to all kind of folks, including Martin Luther King Jr. And so Comey thought he could go in and sort of threaten Trump. Trump kicked him out of his office. Trump knew it wasn't true because they were talking about Trump's own personal history. He knows what he did and what he didn't do. He thought Comey was a fool and threw him out and eventually fired him. But Comey, in a way to get this on the record, because he wanted it out in the news, he was playing with this cabal of people that were trying to undermine the president before the president could ever really become effective in office. Comey went and documented his conversation in a letter to himself. It's like he wrote his own little diary. Dear diary, met with Trump today. Man, is he orange. Talked to him about the PP tape. And he wrote himself a letter and classified it. He had classification authority, okay? And then he leaked it. He had a professor at Georgetown that was his conduit. It was his sort of cutout to get things into the media. He leaked the contents of that letter to this Georgetown professor who then leaked it to, I forget which publication it was. Most publications turned it down because there was no substantiation. And eventually, I think it was BuzzFeed that eventually sort of, quote, broke the story. They spun that into a special prosecutor. None of it was ever true. And he was at the very origin of this. So back to back, he gives Hillary a pass on actual crimes, stood in front of the country and admitted that Hillary Clinton broke the law in the way she handled those documents, setting that server up and then destroying it. And I've told y'all for years, she set the server up so she could destroy it. If she was ever under investigation, she wanted the ability. This woman was nasty enough and experienced enough at corruption that she set up a system where she could control the outcome if they were coming looking for her using her government position to gain money for the Clinton family through that stupid foundation, which no public official should be able to participate in this. But she was unique in that her husband was an ex-president. So he gives Hillary a pass, says she probably broke the law, and then his memory is the excuse, but no reasonable prosecutor would bring this case. It's not a thing. But we sat back and let him get away with that stuff. Now, it probably ultimately cost her an election because she's a lying, insidious hag anyway. But it's good that he's at least getting subpoenaed. Now, hear what I'm saying. Comey's not been indicted by the Southern District, but they've issued more. It says here more than 130 different subpoenas in the probe overall, and he just got one of them. So they're calling him in to testify. We don't even have acknowledgement yet that he's the target of a probe. And he'll fight it. He'll fight having to say anything on the record because, as Comey well knows, it's an old trick from his old agency. There are perjury trap implications if he goes in front of a grand jury and perjures himself. And so he can go to Congress and get away with it because Congress is weak, and they call show hearings just to get public attention and get hits on television and the internet when they're being tough, but they never follow up on the stuff. Except with a few select people. They never follow up on perjury after they've sworn somebody in. A grand jury subpoena under a Justice Department investigation absolutely would follow up on perjury. So he's in a deal where he either drops a dime or he perjures himself, and they've got him in a box. We'll see where this goes, but that's a pretty major headline this afternoon. Man, we have chased a myriad of stories today. I'm trying to make sure I haven't missed anything. Oh, there's another story. Let me just throw this in there. I brought up Mamdani a little while ago, and the spiraling of New York City. It's really become a huge embarrassment. But a statistic came out today that is eye-popping, and it's disgusting to a lot of people that live in New York City. New York City is now spending $81,000 per homeless person a year. And the significance of that number is it exceeds the median household income in New York City. In other words, the homeless people are getting more tax money spent on them than people who are getting up, going to work, that are also paying their tax money. And most of these homeless people that are being given these funds and the shelter and these food subsidies and everything else are from foreign countries. This invasion of the country and this design by the Democrats, which they are defending on the floor of the Senate right now, tooth and nail, with both the government shutdown to slow down deportations and, of course, trying to stop the SAVE Act, which the Republicans are going to kill that by not fighting. Now they're dealing with this situation in New York City, which is getting exposed, and all the California stuff that we found out about this week. These are two petri dishes of how to do everything wrong. That's an outrage to average people in New York, and they're asking for more money. They want to spend more money on these folks. Now, what started breaking apart some of the Democrat coalition on their immigration, it really started in Chicago, in black communities that were noticing their communities were getting neglected, communities that heavily are relying on public assistance in a lot of areas. Suddenly that public assistance was getting shifted over to these new people that showed up out of nowhere. And the black folks in Chicago rebelled on that. They still elected this idiot for mayor. But now Chicago's sitting here. They've lost their football team. They're losing their businesses. Major businesses are taking a walk. Same thing's happening in California. Same thing's happening in New York. Yesterday, Kathy Hochul was begging wealthy people to come back to New York for some reason so they could tax them more. So they can do this stuff, put out this money to these people in the streets. It's the old Milton Friedman line. If you put the government in charge of the Sahara Desert, they would run out of sand. It's the same thing. There's not enough money for these people, and they'll keep taking in.
go for the death penalty on him, but Ibrahim Yazid has been found guilty of felony murder, not capital murder.
He just cold-blooded snatched that girl from a gas station and killed her. I mean, what? Okay. Thanks for the update. They should also get the judge that left this animal out on the streets. But I know we changed the entire law on that and named it after Anaya, but what an outrage. All right, back in a minute. Here we go. Man, somehow I got to be 10 minutes before 5 o'clock, and this week has just flown by. Let me talk to you about Douglas Cooling and Heating. I mentioned it earlier. We're going to be in the 80s on this weekend, man. It's going to be 85 degrees outside. Craziness. It's going to feel good. But we're about to get to that point of the year where we're turning the ACs on. I did see a long range forecast that shows maybe late next week, and I know a lot of y'all are off on spring break. It could be one more cold snap. Maybe not as bad as the last one. I don't think there's snow involved, but the weather could take another dip. But we'll eventually be full tilt boogie on the air conditioners. You need to make sure yours is good to go. It just takes a little simple visit by Douglas Cooling and Heating to check the whole thing out. You need to check the charge and the connections and clean it up. The thing needs a bath every now and then. It needs to be able to breathe. It's a mechanical system and an important part of your house. This is Alabama in the South in the summer. You'll die without it. Take care of it. It's Douglas Cooling and Heating. They've taken care of me and all of my air conditioners over almost 17 years together now. Douglas Cooling and Heating. Y'all reach out to them. Call Douglas.com, CALL. Call Douglas.com. Let me throw, this is a little bit of off the track stuff. We've dealt with so much international stuff, and we went deep there for a while on religion and all that, but let me bring it back home just for a minute. I noticed down at the Alabama House of Representatives, I think they've only got 6 or 7 meeting days left after today. They did pass a bill in the House, it looks like, to close the primaries in the state of Alabama. Now, I'm of two minds on this, and I've been this way since the 90s when this would be debated. And I'm going to give y'all a little history on it. You can make your mind up as to whether or not you think this could be a good thing. I don't know its status with the Senate. I just saw that headline today. Haven't kept up real closely with some of this stuff, in full disclosure. But now, right now in Alabama, we do not register by party. And that's why I always laugh when somebody will come up and go, I'm a registered Republican. You are not. We just register as voters. And then every primary comes along. And when you walk into a primary election polling station, you really declare your party that day. So you can go to one side of the room and pick up the blue ballot or whatever the other color ballot is. And they'll get you either tell them you're Republican or you're Democrat and you vote in either party. And then the only restriction on your voting is in the primary. Trying to make sure I explain this as simply as possible. Most of y'all know this, but as we're heading into a primary election in a couple of months, you might as well get a refresher. So once you lock in for that primary cycle, right? Once you voted and declared your party for that election year, if there's a runoff, then you can vote in that same party, but you can't be a Democrat and decide you want to go play around in a Republican runoff if you've declared yourself a Democrat in the first vote. Am I making sense? Is everybody with me? So it's kind of your own choice. That day, you declare that day, decide which primary you want to play in. So we don't have party registration. Now, Republicans have always had a debate as to whether to close the primaries, which would mean you have to register as a Republican with the state, and only registered Republicans can vote in, say, if you're registered as a Republican, then you can vote as a Republican. If you're registered as a Democrat, you have to vote as a Democrat. This is in the primary. In the general, it doesn't matter. You can split your ticket all over the place. You're not locked into whatever the party throws at you, but this is for deciding who gets to represent the parties. Now, I understand to have some integrity on it, and I think what's happening is the modern argument is a lot of people have become interlopers, and they've crept into the Republican Party and are running in those offices. Republicans don't feel like they're being represented by people that really are Republicans because there's no control mechanism that is registration. I would imagine down the road, the rules for qualifying for office are going to be you have to at least be registered as a Republican, right? They're going to close it off and make it like a country club, really. Both parties would have to do this. Sadly, I wish, and I haven't read the bill, and maybe that's part of it, they need to give better, if they're going to do this, my only argument is they need to give better third-party access so a third party can get on the ballot too. Because people like me, and remember, my past is with the Republicans, working as a consultant, advising, running campaigns, actively. At one point, when I got out of media, I was a spokesperson for the Republican Party for a while. But I can't align with that party. They keep screwing me over, but I have no choice but to vote for their candidates because the Democrats absolutely and 100% suck. I could never align myself with their values. The biggest role Republicans play in our political life for people that think like me, or they're just not Democrats, right? And you're trying to get the best one because you don't want a Democrat holding these seats. They're maniacs.
And if you, from me, I'm from Walker County. Basically, all local elections are decided in the Republican primary.
Exactly. So if you really want to vote for governor, say I don't want to go register as a Republican, then I can't vote for governor. Unless I'm held hostage now to go register with a party that I may not subscribe to. And some states do it this way. But I can't participate in actually deciding the nominee because Democrat can't win in this state unless there's a fluke. And Doug Flutie, that's my name for Doug Jones. You remember Doug Flutie?
I remember Doug Flutie.
Doug Flutie is running on the Democrat side, and he's hoping some disaster will happen like Tuberville will get made ineligible because somebody says he lives in Florida, something like that would happen, and he'd fluke his way into another office for a little while. But so back to the registration argument. In the 90s, when this would come up, and I was part of this debate back in the 90s when I was working with the party, there was a general rule that they didn't want to have a closed tent. They wanted to be open to everybody because the Republican Party was trying to grow. And they were still in a minority in the House and Senate, and they could win some constitutional offices, and were starting to pick up steam in around 96. But they didn't want to close off to people because they didn't want to give the Democrats the advantage of being able to recruit those voters. So Republicans had been, as an establishment, against closing the doors to people that wanted to choose day of to vote for their candidates. But suddenly they found themselves totally in power in 2010, and it's kind of going to hell a little bit. Because you got a lot of people down there that in no way represent values that the rest of the party claims to hold, doing a lot of crazy stuff, especially in the legislature. Now, I'm not convinced that this is a good idea. I'm not going to say I'm opposed to it because I get the purpose of it. But if you want to have an exclusive club where only members wear your members only jacket and go vote, you're going to leave some people at home that you're probably going to need to win in the long run. And I think it's wholly unfair that the way the laws are stacked that you can't get a third party on the ballot. It's very difficult. I mean, you can try. Sometimes the Libertarians will get enough win percentage in a previous election to keep a automatic slot, and then they've got some bizarre. They can't get it together and have a proper process for putting a good nominee up. So they never have critical mass, nor the money it takes in that whorehouse that has become our elections. So anyway, it's kind of a little bit of a ramble on this issue. I think there's a danger in it. I'll need to look at the bill and see if there are any other provisions they put in there to help people that could be in that quandary. Like you're fine to vote for a Republican, but you don't want to have to go join the party. And then if you join the party, they're going to make you pay dues or something. Are they going to come after you? I don't know how detailed this is going to get. So I look forward to reading it, seeing what the final version is. So be it. Back here in just a minute. Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Y'all stay tuned. We'll take your phone calls. We'll go back to the phones for the last hour. I'm starting to run out of gas. I think the pollen dries my throat out. I feel like I'm getting hoarse.
Drink more coffee.
Drinking coffee. Back in a minute.